Hi, and welcome to 647, 6 stories for 7 a.m. because there is a famine of truth in our land. And this is your quick news fix, and the truth starts now. All right, well, take one is a gigantic kabuki theater going on right now. It is spanning the world, and it is so much fun to watch. And the New York Times are big suckers once again, along with the mainstream media, because they follow the same monoscript. So what's going on? Speaking to reporters in the Oval Office, Mr. Trump condemned questions about the disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein as sort of a witch hunt, and then launched into a rant against a now familiar string of rivals and the media. So this is the tee-up, right? And the New York Times for their main narrative, and that is that they have Trump on the run because Trump is terrified of what's going to come out when these Epstein files are released. And the cherry on top is Ghislaine Maxwell saying that she's willing to speak with the deputy AG, Todd Blanche. Oh, Trump is so trapped. And Trump, he's playing this like he's marking at an opera rehearsal, right? He's, look, if we just stay away from Epstein, he's just, that's old news. And then, and they're all getting amped up. The libs are sure that they've trapped him, right? And they're getting so excited that even Obama came out of his hole today. But let's just remember, we've seen these kinds of operatic performances before. If you remember the lead up to Tulsi dropping all of these DNI docs last Friday, what was going on started before the bombing of Iran. What happened? Think back. This is how far-reaching the grand entrepreneur impresario Orange Ruffy plans these things out. Before the bombing of Iran, Trump asked his DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, what kind of nuclear program do they have there? And she gets in front of the cameras and says, they have no nuclear program. They have no weapons-grade uranium. They are no threat. In other words, everything Trump's about ready to do with Netanyahu, she's blowing it all to hell. And he's like acting angry. And then from that point on, he never talks about her again. If you look at these fantastic cabinet meetings that are all on camera, all with the press in there, it's just unbelievable after all the secretive lying nonsense that has gone on, which was all non-performative anyway. Here's somebody doing business where everybody can hear and see. But where was Tulsi? Way down at the far end of the table. She was never there before. She was always close to the center, right in the thick of things. Nope. Now she is a shamed woman because she said something Trump didn't like. And so he put her out in the hinterlands, away from microphones, away from cameras. And she played the part too. Head down, shoulders rounded, hair down in her face. She looked like a Van Gogh portrait of his girlfriend who was a prostitute. He named it Sorrow. That's what she looked like, just absolutely sorrowful. And I got caught up in it too. I think Tulsi's great. And I thought, come on, Trump, let up. You're talking to everybody else in the meeting. She's the only person you don't refer to. Well, guess why? He was providing all the cover she needed. The week before she dropped those docs, all of these clowns in the media were like, you know what? He really doesn't like Tulsi. She's not long for this position. He's going to be replacing her. He doesn't talk to her at all. No one's asking her questions. You can't go up against Trump. He is so insecure, right? That's their whole rap. He's laying down this whole thing. So that whole Tulsi opera was Act One. And Act Two is Trump supposedly running away from Epstein because the Dems are sure when everything's released, you're going to find Epstein and Trump with a bunch of 14-year-old girls. Definitely he's hiding. And he's even made a deal with Congress, they say, for Congress to leave early before they can vote on letting all this Epstein stuff out. And so Trump did that. He's looking for an extra month. He's not looking for an extra month. He's setting up, which for the grand impresario is going to be the huge overture and first act. And it has nothing to do with Epstein. All right? So here's what the New York Times is saying. A spokesman for former President Barack Obama issued a rare response to President Trump's baseless treason accusation against Obama and his declaration that it was time to go after people. Trump did this from the Oval Office today on camera with the president of the Philippines sitting right next to him, and he is just blasting away. And what does that do? It makes the mainstream media go wild to protect Obama and run cover with all this Epstein stuff, which is a setup these dolts don't get. And even Obama got sucked into it, right? So Obama's office does not generally respond to attacks from Trump, but the spokesman, Patrick Rodenbush, said in a statement that Trump's claims stemming from a report issued by Trump's director of national intelligence were outrageous enough to merit a response from Obama. These bizarre allegations are ridiculous and a weak attempt at distraction. Distraction from what? From the Epstein thing. We got him. Are you kidding? This guy's on the run. Nothing in the document issued last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 presidential election, but did not successfully manipulate any votes. These findings were affirmed in a 2020 report by the bipartisan Senate Intelligence, that's an oxymoron, committee led by then Chairman Marco Rubio. There you go. Everybody believes in Russiagate still. That's what a good job. That's how great the PSYOP CIA training of the mainstream media is. You keep banging away with that lie and nobody can get off it. They can't even hear it. You go on X and look at the dialogue, the running streams of people going, are you kidding? Russiagate was real. It was completely real. The documents are right there. The emails are right there. The request for the meeting. Obama saying, okay, we're going to flip the script. We're just going to go the opposite of what the truth is. Nobody's making that up. You're looking at his email. You're looking at what he's laid out for the meeting. So you know what? It's such a mistake. Trump is the master troller, and he's doing an amazing job. But how are you going to know when the fun really kicks off? Well, it's not kicking off with Epstein, okay? It's going to kick off with the FISA court. And when you see everything launch with the FISA court, then you know they've turned the roller coaster on and things are going to get wild. The fun begins. The rest is all dopey, dim-witted, fooled again, Trumpery. The guy's a master. What can you say? All right. Take two. Church of St. George in Tabe, Gaza, reported burned by a Jewish mob. Okay, U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee went there today. He went to Tabe today to examine the damage at St. George's Church in Gaza. There was no damage. There was a fire in a field next door to St. George's. Jewish extremists had committed acts of violence and vandalism, but no damage was done to the church. And in the field of emergency management, we say that you need to verify data with at least 3 sources to know what the deal is. And this was reported by phone by one Jewish protester and by one Palestinian. This was after Israel had hit another Catholic church in Gaza with a tank shell, killing 3 people. Netanyahu on a rampage. This guy better back off. His stock is going down fast. All right, take 3. I'm not goofing around about, because I've been following this story for a half year now, and this is the New York Times, and this is getting bad, folks, and you all need to pay attention, right? Get out your wallet, look at your driver's license, and see if you have organ donor on it, because you don't want it on there right now. So this article is entitled, "A Push for More Organ Transplants is Putting Donors at Risk." Okay, this is by Brian Rosenthal and Julie Tate. Last spring, in a small Alabama hospital, a team of transplant surgeons prepared to cut into Misty Hawkins. The clock was ticking. Her organs wouldn't be usable for much longer. Days earlier, she had been a vibrant 42-year-old with a playful sense of humor and a love for the Thunder Beach motorcycle rally. But after Miss Hawkins choked while eating and fell into a coma, her mother decided to take her off life support and donate her organs. She was removed from a ventilator and after 103 minutes declared dead. A surgeon made an incision in her chest and sawed through the breastbone. That's when the doctors discovered her heart was beating. She appeared to be breathing. They were slicing into Miss Hawkins while she was alive. Across the United States, an intricate system of hospitals, doctors, and nonprofit donation coordinators, be careful, carries out tens of thousands of life-saving transplants each year. At every step, it relies on carefully calibrated protocols to protect both donors and recipients. And let's not forget to mention, it is highly, highly profitable. That's why the Chinese are in on it too. But in recent years, as the system has pushed to increase transplants, a growing number of patients have endured premature or bungled attempts to retrieve their organs. You wouldn't think that of the medical community. They've had such a vibrant track record for the past 5 years. Though Miss Hawkins' case is an extreme example of what can go wrong, a New York Times examination revealed a pattern of rushed decision-making that has prioritized the need for more organs over the safety of potential donors and a huge profit margin. We always neglect that somehow. In New Mexico, a woman was subjected to days of preparation for donation, even after her family said that she seemed to be regaining consciousness, which she eventually did. In Florida, a man cried and bit on his breathing tube but was still withdrawn from life support. In West Virginia, doctors were appalled when coordinators asked a paralyzed man coming off sedatives in an operating room for consent to remove his organs. You think that he could give a cogent answer to that at that point? Stories like these have emerged as the transplant system has increasingly turned to a type of organ removal called donation after circulatory death. Ask the Catholic Church what they think about that. It accounted for a third of all donations last year, about 20,000 organs, triple the number from 5 years ago. Is it triple the number because there are more people in need or because it is so damn profitable? Most donated organs in the United States come from people who are brain dead, an irreversible state, some say, and are kept on machines only to maintain their organs. That's not the group we're talking about. Circulatory death donation is different. These patients are on life support, often in a coma. Their prognosis are more of a medical judgment call, not affected by profit motive. No, they are alive with some brain activity, but doctors have determined that they are near death and won't recover. If relatives agree to donation, doctors withdraw life support and wait for the patient's heart to stop sometimes. This has to happen within an hour or two for the organs to be considered viable. After the person is declared dead, surgeons go in. The Times found that some organ procurement organizations, the nonprofits in each state that have federal contracts to coordinate transplants, are aggressively pursuing circulatory death donors and pushing families and doctors toward surgery, because that's how they get paid. Hospitals are responsible for patients up to the moment of death, but some are allowing procurement organizations to influence treatment decisions. 55 medical workers in 19 states told the Times they had witnessed at least one disturbing case of donation after circulatory death. Is this like the new COVID vax saga? Workers in several states said they had seen coordinators persuading hospital clinicians to administer morphine, propofol, and other drugs to hasten the death of potential donors. Nice. I think these types of problems are happening much more than we know, said Dr. Wade Smith, a longtime neurologist at the University of California, San Francisco, who frequently evaluates potential donors and has studied donation after circulatory death with no other conclusion but it's happening more than we know. Great job. A recent federal investigation promoted by the case of a Kentucky man whose organs were pursued even as he shook his head and drew his knees to his chest, found that the state's procurement organization had ignored signs of increasing consciousness in 73 potential donors. 73 people coming around. This guy's shaking his head and pulling his knees up in his chest to block the saw. It's unbelievable. What are you going to do? I'm telling you, until they change the laws about this, where you've got all these federally contracted profit motive greedsters standing by your bed trying to convince everybody to open you up. You got valuables in there. You don't matter anymore. I'm saying take that organ donor thing off your license. It's on mine, and I'm going to take care of it this week. And in unrelated or related news, Ozzy Osbourne has died. I don't know if they got to him in time. All right. He was 76. I think his organs were shot anyway. All right. COGS, COGS. What are COGS? They are city-owned grocery stores. And avoid this if at all possible. Kansas City never had a decent grocery store on the east side. So they opened a city-owned grocery store, or COGS, which last year only lost the taxpayers $885,000. One grocery store lost $885,000 because there was such a need. Not a bad do-gooder business model. There are only about 4,000 shoppers a week, down from 14,000 when they opened. Why, you might ask? Well, the story goes like this. First, the pandemic. Every government studies straw man. Then, crime rose around the store. Vagrants, panhandlers, drug dealers, assaults, robberies, and shoplifting, all the things that do-gooders plan for from their Whole Foods experience in Blueville. Security incidents of note, a la Whole Foods, a naked woman walking through the store, throwing food on the floor, okay? Another person urinating in aisle 3, and on the library lawn across the street, a couple fornicating in broad daylight. You know, the East Side's not what it used to be. Zoran Mamdadi, whatever it is, who cares? This Marxist Prince of Tide in New York City wants to open 5 of these COGS to follow up on the 5 modular bathrooms we reported about that cost New York City over $5 million. Zoran, the front runner for mayor, promises to combat out of control prices. That's not going to happen. And to operate without a profit motive. That, we believe, is going to happen. Spoken like Trader Joe Stalin. It's always people who never met a payroll or watched a bottom line that sell this nonsense to other nonsense seekers because it feels so good to spend other people's money and virtue signal in front of cameras. It would be cheaper to pay these people to go away, but they won't. All right, take 5. 1,000 pistols a week in Wyoming. That's right. Caltech Firearms, factory of Rock Springs, left Florida in 2002 when it was looking a little pinkish, maybe going to purple, and you can't take a risk if you're a Second Amendment company. So looking for long-term red America, they end up in Wyoming at Rock Springs, opening a 33,000 square foot building to make a new kind of personal defense handgun, the Caltech PR-57, turning out 1,000 a week at $399 a piece. The PR-57 was designed around the rule of 3s for self-defense. Most civilian self-defense occurrences happen within 3 yards of the assailant. They last 3 seconds, and they involve 3 or fewer shots fired. The PR-57 is a simple, lightweight, 9mm, easily concealable for beginners. You load it with a 10-round stripper clip through the top of the gun, which can carry 20 plus 1 rounds. I think Santa got this one right. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. All right. That looks like an interesting firearm. Okay, take 6. And because we have a new logo for 647, modeled after Route 66, we're doing 2 6s. So here comes one. Actor Jeff Daniels mourned the loss of former Vice President Kamala Harris during the 2024 presidential election, even going so far as to compare her to former President Abraham Lincoln. The Dumb and Dumber actor shared his views on the 2024 election in an interview with MSPNC's Nicole Wallace. I still think about Kamala and how I think she would have been a good choice, Daniel said on her podcast, The Best People. That's Nicole Wallace's podcast, The Best People. I don't care what they say because she would have done what Lincoln did. Liz Cheney would have been Secretary of State. This he's mapping it out. Wallace then compared Kamala Harris to Abraham Lincoln, which Jeff Daniels agreed with. Team of rivals. That's what Lincoln did. Surrounded himself with the people who would disagree with him, not the people who would take a knee and go, yeah, more tariffs, sir, more, said Daniels. What can I say? You got to go to Hollywood to get the real wisdom on all these things. I'm speechless. All right. 6-2. Sorry, but we're back to Superman. It will not go away. So Breitbart's John Nolte following up on this. Superman director James Gunn is blaming his movie's weak overseas box office on President Trump. This is great. This blame thing in our culture is so lame. How about the CEO at the Coldplay concert that nobody can get enough of? And when he finally talks to the press, he blames Coldplay. You just can't make it up. It's so pathetic. So Gunn says about Trump talking smack about Superman. Oh, sure, he got cute about it, but we all know what he meant. Trump said, Superman is not a known commodity in some places. He's not a big known superhero in some places like Batman is, that affects things, Gunn told the far left Rolling Stone. And it also affects things that we have a certain amount of anti-American sentiment around the world right now. It isn't really helping us. This is Trump talking about Gunn's movie, and Gunn is also hugely and vociferously anti-Trump. The reason guys like Gunn talk to outlets like the Rolling Stone is because guys like Gunn know they can say anything without fear of challenge or pushback. Well, anything that hits the left sweet spot, like Trump is so hated, people won't see my movie, man. Really? That makes sense to anyone? They hate Trump so much they won't see his Superman movie. Now, I'm not some big-time Rolling Stone journalist, Nolte says. I'm just a guy who's overpaid to shitpost online. But I have questions for Mr. James Gunn. Just one teeny little question. Why has the American movie Jurassic World Rebirth, released only 9 days before Superman, grossed almost $400 million overseas in just 20 days? Meanwhile, Superman has grossed less than half that. Actually, I have another question. If anti-American sentiment is hurting American movies overseas, how did the American movie Lilo and Stitch gross $590 million overseas this summer? How to Train Your Dragon is at $339 million overseas. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning earned $393 million overseas. F1 the movie scored $309 million overseas. So here's where I answer my own question. The reason Superman is underperforming overseas is because Superman sucks. But you know what? We don't suck, and you can help if you think we do. You can like us, you can share us, you can make comments. And guess what? It's Wednesday, hump day. You're going over the top, and you got to do your best. And you know what we want for you? We want the blessings of God upon you. God bless you. All right. That's it. No mas.